Mr. Juho Kusti Paasikivi served most famously as the seventh president of Finland from March 1946 to March 1956. He was born in the town of Koski in Tavastia in southern Finland in November 1870. He belonged to the conservative-oriented Finnish party, or Old Finns, and then from 1918 onwards until his death in December 1956 to the National Coalition Party, which during his lifetime was a clearly right-wing party. His original name was Johan Gustaf Hellsten, but he Finnicized it to Juho Kusti Paasikivi in 1885. He was orphaned at the age of 14 and was raised by his aunt. As a young man, he was an enthusiastic athlete and gymnast. He graduated from secondary school in the southern Finnish city of Hämeenlinna. In 1890, he entered the University of Helsinki. He graduated as a Bachelor of Arts already, or Bachelor of Laws already in 1892, and as a lawyer in 1897. In that year, he married his first wife, Miss Anna Matilda Forsman, who died in 1931. They had 4 children. In 1901, he became a Doctor of Law and was Associate Professor of Administrative Law at Helsinki University from 1902 to 1903. Then he became Director-in-Chief of the Treasury of the Grand Duchy of Finland until 1914. He supported greater autonomy for Finland and an independent cabinet or senate. He also resisted Russia's pan-Slavic intentions to make Russian the only official language everywhere in the Russian Empire. He believed in passive resistance to the Russian government's attempts to eliminate Finnish autonomy. He served as a member of the Finnish Parliament from 1907 to 1909 and from 1910 to 1913. He also served as the Finnish Finance Minister from 1908 to 1909. He resigned from the Finnish Finance Ministry in 1914 and then turned to banking. He became Chief General Manager of the National Share Bank, or Kansallisosakepankki in Finnish, and retired from that position in 1934. After the February Revolution that overthrew Tsar or Emperor Nicholas II in Russia in 1917, Paasikivi was appointed to a committee that began to formulate new legislation for modernized Grand Duchy. After the Bolshevik Revolution in early November 1917, Paasikivi fought for full independence for Finland, although he favored a constitutional monarchy. During the Finnish Civil War from January to May 1918, Paasikivi supported the Whites. Then in May 1918, he was appointed Prime Minister by the Regent or temporary Head of State of Finland and fellow Conservative Mr. Per-Evind Svinhufvud. He resigned as Prime Minister in November 1918. And around that time it became clear that because Germany lost the First World War and Britain and the United States would not, at least very willingly, recognize Germany if it had a German citizen as its king, Prince Karl Friedrich of Hesse, then it was clear that Finland would not become a monarchy, and it became absolutely clear in March 1919 when the pro-republic parties received about 3/4 of the seats in parliamentary elections. He was at this time a so conservative politician that he firmly opposed the Social Democrats' entry into the government or the Communists' entry into the parliament. At first he supported this semi-fascist Lapua movement, But when the first Finnish president, the progressive or liberal politician and lawyer Karlo Juho Ståhlberg, was kidnapped along with his wife in October 1930, Paasikivi turned firmly against the Lapua movement. In 1934, having retired as a bank manager, he was asked by moderate conservatives to lead the National Coalition Party, which he did until 1936. During that time, true to his moderately conservative principles, he steered the National Coalition Party clearly away from the far-right Patriotic People's Movement. In 1936, having resigned as an ambassador, he was appointed as the Finnish ambassador. Having resigned as the party leader of the National Coalition Party, he was appointed as the Finnish ambassador to Sweden, in which post he served until December 1939. He got remarried in 1934 to Miss Alina or Alli Valve. They had no children. Paasikivi led the Finnish delegation that negotiated on probably 3 separate occasions between early October and early November 1939 in Moscow, the capital of the Soviet Union, on possible surrender of some Finnish territory in the Karelian Isthmus, a narrow area of land between the Gulf of Finland in the west and Lake Ladoga in the east. He was willing to concede more land to the Soviet Union than was the Finnish government. Those negotiations proved a failure, and then the Winter War started at the end of November 1939. At the start of December, Paasikivi was appointed to the new government as a minister without portfolio. He led the Finnish negotiators who negotiated the Treaty of Moscow in March 1940, in which Finland lost most of Karelia and another territory in northern Finland, all the outer islands of the Gulf of Finland, and a tiny territory in the Petsamo area on the Arctic Ocean's coast. Then from 1940 until the summer of 1941, he served as the Finnish ambassador to the Soviet Union. He consulted on some or several occasions the wartime Finnish president Risto Ryti, but remained on the sidelines in politics. In November 1944, the new Finnish president, Marshal Carl Gustaf Emil Mannerheim, appointed him as prime minister, and there were even a couple of communist ministers in his government. He remained prime minister until he was elected to succeed Paasikivi, to succeed Mannerheim as president in March 1946 through an exceptional law passed by Parliament. He had become moderate politically. He was willing to work with the Social Democrats and even with the Communists as long as they obeyed the Constitution and the other laws. But in the spring of 1948, he was prepared for the possibility of a communist coup attempt that never came, and when communists lost over 10 seats in the parliamentary elections of July 1948, Paasikivi moved them into the opposition, where they would actually remain until 1966. He was able to convince the Soviet leaders in secret private negotiations that Finland wanted to live at peace with the Soviet Union, but was unwilling to become another Soviet-style republic. In 1948, Finland signed with the Soviet Union a treaty of friendship, cooperation and mutual assistance, which was to remain the basis of the Finnish-Soviet relations until the abolition of the Soviet Union in 1991. He was re-elected president, this time normally through an electoral college in 1950, and he retired at the end of that term He was brought in as a dark horse candidate for the second ballot of the 1956 presidential election, but he received only 84 votes, well behind the Social Democratic and Agrarian presidential candidates Karl August Fagerholm and Urho Kekkonen. Kekkonen was narrowly elected as his successor. Paasikivi devoted the final 9 months of his life to reading of historical books and to a review of his many notes. But none of his memoirs, none of the volumes of his memoirs was ready when he died of a heart attack in Helsinki in December 1956, aged 86.